Something was already wrong before I even clocked in. I couldn't place it at first, just a kind of pressure behind my eyes, like I hadn't slept, even though I had. The parking lot was half empty, a few scattered carts frozen under the yellow lights, and the air felt strange, too still for a July night in Arkansas. My name is Daniel. I've been working in the Walmart stockroom in Fayetteville for just over a year now. Night shifts mostly. I handle inbound freight, unload trucks, break down pallets. It's repetitive, but there's comfort in the rhythm. The hum of the conveyor belts, the hiss of the baler, the distant voice of someone calling for a manager on the intercom. You learn to filter out the noise and just move, push, sort, stack, push again. Tonight felt slower than usual. The kind of slow that makes you check your watch every 10 minutes, even though you swear it hasn't moved. The backroom lights buzzed louder than normal. One of them, above aisle R12, flickered, casting these stuttering shadows across the floor. I was alone in that section, or I thought I was. At 12:47 a.m., I walked past the inbound dock and saw it. A box. Just one box. Medium-sized. Sitting near the yellow safety line. Not tagged, not scanned, not on a pallet. No paperwork clipped to it. No other freight around. Just there, like it had been placed carefully. Not dropped, not tossed. I stopped. There was handwriting on the top. Thick black marker, all caps. 5 letters. My name, Daniel. No last name, no address. Just that. And for a second, I thought maybe someone was messing with me. We joke around sometimes during night shifts. Scribble stuff on the baler. Tape silly signs on each other's lockers. But this felt off. It was too clean, too deliberate. I asked my buddy Oscar, he was working unloading that night, if he'd seen anyone bring it in. He swore he hadn't. Said he'd been out back on smoke break 10 minutes ago and there was nothing there then. I tapped the side of the box. Nothing. Then I did it again. That time, something tapped back. Not loud, not aggressive, just a light thump, like someone inside was tapping once in response. I froze, looked around. No one near, no forklifts, no radios playing. Just the echo of that sound replaying in my head. I stepped back, waited, nothing else. Tried to laugh it off, but it didn't land. I asked Oscar again, but he just shrugged, said he didn't want to touch it. That's when I noticed something else. The barcode was smudged, like someone had tried to wipe it off. The label was peeling slightly, and under the corner, I saw ink. Another layer beneath the top tag. I didn't pull it then. Something about the air around that box made me feel like I wasn't supposed to. We moved on, or at least Oscar did. I kept checking over my shoulder, expecting it to be gone, or moved, or open. But it just sat there, unmoving. Ordinary in every way except for how wrong it felt. Around 1:30 I came back from my break and noticed it had shifted slightly, only by a few inches, but I hadn't touched it. Oscar swore he hadn't either, and no one else was scheduled in that section until morning. I tried reporting it. Manager wasn't picking up. Radio gave static. System was lagging like hell. I walked back to the dock and just stared at it. It wasn't moving anymore. Everything was in place, which made what happened next even harder to explain. The weirdest part was how nobody else seemed to care. The box sat there for hours. I asked 2 more people on shift, Clara from dry goods and Ron from dairy, if they knew anything about it. Neither even noticed it. Ron barely glanced in its direction before going back to stacking crates of yogurt. Clara just said, "We get weird shit all the time," and kept walking. But this wasn't weird. It was personal. At some point, I wheeled a pallet jack around it just to see if anyone would react. If someone would stop and ask why I was maneuvering around a random, unscanned box in the middle of the inbound lane. No one blinked. It was like it wasn't there for them, or like it didn't matter. I checked the cameras. I've got access to some of the internal feeds. Not everything. Just a few rear-loading dock angles and one down the R12 corridor. I rewound the dock cam about an hour before I found the box. There was no footage of it arriving, just an empty space. Then, 1 frame later, not a second of movement. It was there, like it had blinked into existence. 1 second, nothing. Next second, box. No truck, no worker, no dolly, just box. I stared at the screen until it blurred. My own name, over and over. That damn handwriting. Thick, confident, sharp angles, like it was written by someone who really knew how to write my name. Not just spell it, write it. There's a difference. By 3 a.m., the room felt colder. I swear the AC hadn't kicked on. but the temperature in the stockroom dropped enough that I saw my breath for a moment near the box. The air around it felt static, like standing under power lines. I crouched next to it again, close enough to hear. Nothing. I pressed my ear against the side gently, and that's when I heard it again. A shuffle, a low, dragging sound from inside. Not nails, not scratching, flesh, moving slowly against cardboard. I jerked back, almost kicked it, almost screamed. Then the box made a sound, not from the inside, one from the label. The sticker with my name on it began to peel, not all at once, just the top edge curling slowly, like a time lapse happening in real life. I didn't touch it, I just watched, and underneath, there was another label. Same shape, same handwriting, but not my name. It was a woman's name, short, 5 letters. I didn't recognize it at first, until I remembered the orientation packet from a few months back. That name had been listed under new hires. Emily. I never saw her in person, just a picture in the system. New associate, night shift, start date, March 14th. Last activity in the system, March 17th. That's 3 days. I looked her up on the internal dashboard. No shifts logged since, no termination form, no exit interview. Just 3 days. Then nothing. I stood up, walked away. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't scan the box. Didn't report it again. Something told me it would be pointless. Or worse, that I wasn't supposed to. And yet, when I passed by again an hour later, my name was back on top. The label was clean, unpeeled, the ink darker now, bolder, like it wanted me to see it, like it was correcting itself. People think the stockroom at night is quiet. It's not. It's a different kind of noise. Constant, low grade, like the world is humming underneath your feet. There's the mechanical whir of the conveyor belts, the heavy thunk of pallets hitting the floor, the soft clatter of plastic wrap being peeled back. And underneath it all, the compressors in the freezer room never stop. You stop hearing it after a few months. It becomes background, like your own breathing. I work the back half of the store, mostly general merchandise, electronics, toys, sometimes health and beauty. We break the freight by department, slide it out on U-boats, and line it up in the main aisle before it gets stocked. Simple, efficient. But tonight I was slow, unfocused. My eyes kept going back to the box. It sat exactly where I'd left it, dead center between the cardboard baler and the dock ramp. No one touched it, or maybe no one saw it. I still wasn't sure which bothered me more. I kept telling myself to ignore it. I buried myself in tasks, wrapped pallets, crushed boxes, did an unnecessary sweep of the overstock bins. But no matter what I was doing, I kept glancing back, just quick enough to make sure it was still there. And it always was. At some point, I started thinking about the design of the box, not just the label. The box itself. It didn't match our standard freight. Walmart uses uniform double-wall cardboard for inbound, printed with supplier codes, weight guides, fragile indicators. This box didn't have any of that. The color was slightly off, a shade grayer. The corners looked hand-folded, almost like someone had made it, like it wasn't from a supplier at all. And the tape was darker than usual, not clear, almost brown, old-looking. It had tiny fibers embedded in it. I tried not to touch it again, but I found myself circling it more often, pretending to scan nearby inventory just to stay close. There's a rhythm to the night shift. Tasks flow into each other. You don't look at the clock, you feel it. But that night, time stopped flowing. At 4:12 a.m., I scanned a U-boat twice. I mean, literally. Scanned the same cart, same label, twice in a row without noticing. Then I left the handheld device behind, walked 10 aisles before realizing it wasn't in my hand. My head felt foggy, not tired, wrong, like I was being pulled inward. Thoughts looped, hands shook. I went to the break room, tried to drink water. My bottle felt warm, stale. Oscar passed me in the hallway, said I looked pale. I asked him again about the box. He looked confused, like I'd never asked before. What box? I didn't answer. He waited. I asked again, slower this time, described it, the name, the location, the sound it made. He just stared at me, then laughed. Dude, you good? You been in the freezer too long? I almost argued, almost dragged him back to see it, but something told me not to. Something about his eyes. He wasn't joking. He genuinely didn't know what I was talking about. That's when I noticed the scanner logs on my handheld. There was no record of the box, no scan, no barcode rejection, no anomaly tag. It didn't exist. Not digitally, not officially, and yet it was right there, sitting still, quiet, but not forgotten. I took another long look across the dock floor before stepping away. Just one more second, one more glance, and in that second, I could swear the corner of the box, just slightly, lifted off the floor and settled again. Like something inside had shifted its weight. There should have been a record. Every box that enters that stockroom is scanned, logged, associated with a delivery truck and a timestamp. If something's off, wrong size, missing label, unusual weight, it's flagged automatically by the handhelds. Even if someone forgets to scan, the cameras catch it. The system always knows. But this box had no footprint, no digital trace, no delivery schedule, no inbound record. I checked everything. At around 4:30, I went to the manager's office, the tiny room above the dock with the cracked monitor and peeling floor tiles, logged into the delivery management terminal. I don't usually touch that system, but I've seen our night manager do it before. It's slow as hell, running on some outdated interface from 2007, but it works. I searched the manifests from the past 24 hours. Nothing. No unscheduled drop-offs, no unidentified parcels, no notes. The last confirmed truck came in at 11:05 p.m. Standard third-party freight. Oscar logged it. I was there. I helped unload. That truck was clean. Everything accounted for. I even remembered taping the last pallet shut myself. There was no extra box. I widened the search window. Past 48 hours. Still nothing. There was no logical point of entry for that box. It hadn't been wheeled in, carried in, dropped. Nothing. It was just there. And then I thought, maybe someone walked it in from the front. It sounded stupid even as I considered it. Why would someone carry a box through the main store, past customers and self-checkout, past electronics, through the back hallway and into the stockroom without being seen? But I checked the cameras anyway. I loaded up the interior feeds, pulled the hallway cam, scrubbed back 3 hours, and there it was again, or rather the lack of it. No movement, no person. At exactly 12:46:52 a.m., the dock floor is empty. At 12:46:53, the box is in the frame. No blur, no movement, no transition. Just an instant, seamless appearance, like a flicker in reality. I backed up, played it again, same result. I zoomed in on the frame. Nothing unusual at first, until I noticed something about the lighting. The overhead lights near the box seemed darker, a patch of shadow around the edges, as if the light bent slightly, like the box wasn't sitting in the environment, but slightly through it. I took a screenshot, saved it to a flash drive in my pocket. I know what I saw. But when I turned around to head back, the hallway light above the break room suddenly blinked out, hard, no flicker, just gone. I froze. The silence that followed didn't feel natural, not like when the power cuts or a breaker flips. This was heavy, like the store itself was waiting. I stood there in the dark hallway for maybe 30 seconds before the light came back on. But when it did, I noticed something that wasn't there before. A smear. A dark, damp smear stretching across the tile near the employee lockers. It looked like it had been dragged, like something wet had moved through there. And at the very edge of the streak, pressed into the grime, was a partial shoe print, smaller than mine, pointed slightly toward the stockroom. I went back to the box. I don't know why. I should have called someone. I should have walked out. But I couldn't shake the feeling that if I turned my back on it again, really turned my back, something would happen. Something I wouldn't be able to undo. So I walked slowly down the back corridor, past the wrapped pallets and stacked totes, past the blinking light over R12, past the smell. Yeah, there was a smell now. Not strong, not rotten, just off, like wet drywall mixed with something vaguely sweet, the kind of scent that lives deep in your nose and doesn't go away. It clung to the air near the loading ramp, especially close to the box. I crouched next to it again. Same size, same position, same dark tape curling at the corners. I didn't touch it this time. I just waited, listened. At first nothing. Then, soft, barely audible, tap, a pause, tap, tap. I felt my throat tighten. Not fear exactly, not yet, but something more primal. Like my body knew something before my brain did. I leaned in, ear close to the side. Shh. The sound wasn't a whisper. It wasn't even human. It was something brushing along the inside of the cardboard. Something slick and slow, like skin dragging over paper. Then another tap from deeper this time, like a single knuckle pressing outward. My heart started beating faster. I stood up too quickly and knocked over an empty tote behind me. It clattered, echoing loud across the stockroom. I froze. Nothing moved. The box remained still, but now the top flap looked slightly lifted. Not open, just unsealed. Like the tape had loosened on one corner. I reached out slowly. Stopped. My hand was shaking. Not from cold, from something deeper. I'd been in fights. Been jumped once behind a gas station when I was 19. I knew what adrenaline felt like. But this was different. This was resonating. I could feel the wrongness of that box in my bones. I pulled my hand back, backed away a few steps, tried to calm myself. Then I heard my name. Not loud, not from a person. It came from the stock intercom, the overhead PA system we use for pages. But the voice wasn't Oscar, or Clara, or any supervisor. It was my own, garbled, slowed down. Just one word, Daniel, drawn out like a sigh, then silence. I turned toward the PA speaker above the dock door. Nothing but a faint buzz now. No announcement, no follow-up. I ran to the break room, picked up the wall phone, hit the code for the office line. No answer. Tried again. Static. Tried calling my own cell. Left it charging near the lockers. No ring. I walked back into the hallway, slower now. Lights buzzed normally again. The smear on the floor was gone. But something had changed. The box had moved, not far, just a few feet forward, closer to the center of the dock floor. It hadn't been rolled. There were no marks, no trail, just a new position. Dead center now, waiting. I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't hear him come in, but when I turned, James, our night supervisor, was standing at the edge of the dock, halfway in shadow. He looked different, pale, his posture stiff, like he was bracing for something. His eyes flicked between me and the box, then settled on the box. "You didn't touch it, did you?" His voice was low, measured, not angry, more like concerned or scared. I shook my head. He stepped closer, just enough to see his face clearly. He looked tired, not the usual kind, the deep kind, like he hadn't really slept in days, even if he'd tried. "Don't open it," he said. Just that, no explanation. "What is it?" I asked. He didn't answer, just kept his eyes on the box, as if something might change if he looked away. Then I asked the wrong question. "Did you put it there?" His face twitched. That twitch told me everything. He didn't answer, just turned away slightly, hand resting on the edge of the conveyor. "You saw the name, right?" I pressed. "My name." Still nothing. Then, "It shows up sometimes." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It's not for you," he said. "Not yet." I felt my chest tighten. "Not yet." I started to ask what he meant, how he knew about it, but he cut me off. "Don't move it. Don't open it. Don't talk about it again." He turned and walked toward the office, slow and stiff, like his body was resisting each step. The overhead lights buzzed louder than before. The box hadn't moved again, but the lid was still loose, still ready, like it was waiting for permission. The rest of my shift passed in fragments. I avoided the dock as much as I could, took my break early, pretended to be busy near lawn and garden just to put distance between me and the sound, because the sound had returned. Soft brushing, faint tapping, like fingertips against cardboard. It came in intervals, like breathing. I didn't see James again that night. He never came back out. The office light stayed on, but the door was shut, locked. I knocked once. No answer. I wanted to leave early, but I didn't. Not because I was brave, because I was afraid of what might happen if I turned my back for too long. That box didn't feel like it came from anywhere. It felt like it had always been there, and we'd just stopped noticing. At the end of the shift, I went to grab my phone from the lockers. It wasn't there, but there was something else. A slip of paper, folded in half, no envelope. Inside, 5 words written in the same thick black marker: "Do not follow the sound." I didn't tell anyone. Just walked to my car in the brittle blue light of morning and sat there for 15 minutes before turning the key. And the whole time in the back of my mind, I kept hearing that slow, dragging sound again, like something inside cardboard, shifting closer. By the next night, things were off. Not dramatic, not obvious. Just wrong in that quiet, gnawing way that only people who work night shift understand. It started with the manifest. The delivery came in like usual. A truck just past midnight backed into the dock. Oscar and I started unloading. He worked the dolly while I scanned boxes. But about a third of the way through, I noticed something strange. A full pallet of seasonal lights, missing. I remembered it clearly. I'd pre-logged the shipment earlier that day, checked it twice. It should have been there. 78 units, pallet B43, gone. I thought maybe we missed it in the trailer. Walked back through, nothing. Called the driver. He shrugged, said we signed for everything. No short notes, no claims. Then, another. A tote full of vacuum filters. Barcode matched. Empty. Completely empty. Not even stuffing paper. The lid taped like normal. The label scanned clean. But inside, nothing. Oscar said I was overthinking. System glitches all the time, he told me. Probably a bad pick from distribution. But it kept happening. The deeper we got into the unload, the more little gaps I found. A TV box with no foam inserts. A case of detergent half full, sealed tight. A shrink-wrapped U-boat where the plastic had been cut and retied. Not cleanly, but like someone with shaking hands had done it in a rush. Around 2 a.m., I finally walked the floor, checked for breakage, damaged freight, theft maybe, but everything was still there. Except it wasn't. It's hard to explain. You start to notice patterns in retail, where pallets go, how certain zones fill. But last night there were gaps, spatial gaps, like space itself was rearranging. Row A1 felt longer than usual. Row H felt shorter. Aisle M, the one with hardware, had a back corner that looked darker, even though the bulbs were fine. I started feeling nauseous around 2:45, a weird slow wave in my gut, like motion sickness, but I hadn't moved. I took a break near the baler, sat with my back against the wall. That's when I heard it again. The box. It was still there, unopened, untouched, sitting just where I last saw it, or maybe not exactly. A few feet to the left, I think. I wasn't sure anymore. It made a sound, not tapping this time, dragging, just once. A slow, heavy drag, like something repositioning itself inside. The sound of pressure shifting across corrugated cardboard, followed by silence. I stood, walked slowly toward it. The air around it felt colder again, like before. And this time, I noticed something I hadn't before. The floor beneath the box, where it had sat for days now, had a faint impression. Not just weight, more like heat damage, a subtle darkening, like something seared a mark into the concrete, even though the box hadn't moved. I didn't touch it, I just stared. Then I turned and stopped, because the freight around it was wrong. A pallet I'd just broken down an hour ago, resealed. A tote I'd opened, retaped. My scanner still logged the last barcode as completed, but the item wasn't there anymore. It had been replaced with something else. Same SKU, same label, but lighter. I opened it. Inside was just air. That was the moment I realized it wasn't just about the box anymore. It was starting to spread. I didn't plan to stay late that night, but somewhere between aisle resets and inventory corrections, the clock slipped past 3:15 a.m., and I realized I hadn't seen another person in nearly an hour. No Oscar, no James, no one. At first, I figured they were both in the break room, maybe stepping out for a smoke. I finished a pass through housewares, then made my way toward the back. The hallway light above the cleaning closet flickered when I passed. That was new. Just one long stutter, like a film skipping. The break room door was open, lights off, empty, no bags, no food, not even the buzz of the vending machines. I tried my radio, got only static. Then I tried the back door, the one near the compactor chute. Locked, no beep, no magnetic release. Just a dead click like someone had sealed it from the outside. I walked to the other exit, the double doors near electronics. Same thing. I began checking every known exit one by one, and one by one, I found the same result. Locked, blocked, or just gone. I'm not exaggerating. The hallway that leads out to receiving, the long one with the green exit sign, wasn't there. Instead, there was a blank wall. No sign, no door. Just a smooth stretch of beige like the exit had never existed. I touched it. Solid drywall. I backed away, tried to retrace my steps, went through soft lines, back toward the dock. That's when I noticed the sound. Not the brushing from before. This was something else. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate footsteps on polished concrete. Pacing. Close enough to hear, but never to see. I turned each corner slow, scanning with the handheld's flashlight. The aisles were clear. No carts, no shadows. Just the constant feeling of someone always standing just behind the next shelf. I called out. Nothing. I even shouted Oscar's name, but the only thing I heard was a faint, high-pitched tone, barely audible, almost like tinnitus. Then I passed near the box, and everything got worse. The lights dimmed by at least 30%. Not off, just lower, like someone dialed down reality by a notch, and the air was freezing. The box hadn't moved, not visually, but I knew, deep down, it was closer than before. I don't remember making the decision to approach it. My legs just moved. I got within 5 feet, then stopped, because something behind me whispered. Not a word, just breath, right behind my ear. I turned fast. No one there. When I turned back, the box was open. Not fully, just one flap folded outward. I stared. Inside it was dark, too dark, like the kind of black that absorbs the light around it. I stepped closer, and something inside shifted. Not fast, not sudden, just a slow rearrangement of weight, like bones under wet fabric. I backed away slowly, trying not to blink, and then I heard the loading dock doors rattle, loud, like someone was beating on them from the outside. I ran, not toward the doors, away from them, toward electronics, toward the center of the store, toward anywhere that didn't have shadows moving on their own. But the store didn't feel right anymore. The layout was wrong. Aisles didn't connect the way they should. Shelves curved when they used to run straight, and the footsteps never stopped. It happened at 4:06 a.m. I remember the exact time because my handheld blinked out at the same moment. The screen froze mid-scan, then flashed white, like it had been shocked. The overhead lights cut out a second later. Not flickered, not dimmed, just total, instant black. No backup lights, no emergency glow, not even the green exit signs. I stood in complete darkness, the kind that swallows sound, the kind that presses against your ribs from every direction. I held still, listened. Silence. Then, a thud, not near me, near the back. Another thud, louder. A dragging sound followed, long, slow, something moving across tile. The scanner in my hand buzzed violently once, then died for good. I waited, tried to breathe quietly. The store was too quiet. No compressors, no fans, no hum of the fridges and grocery. Just nothing, until the lights snapped back on, all at once, and the box was gone. I stood in the same aisle, M7, hardware. I remember because I had knocked over a display of extension cords earlier. They were gone too, cleaned, reset, like that moment hadn't happened. I ran back toward the dock, fast, hard in my throat, and there it was, the box. It had moved again. Now it was near the cleaning supplies caged section, halfway between janitorial and returns, sitting neatly, facing outward, but it wasn't the same. The tape on top was peeled clean off, all 4 flaps shut, but untaped, as if it had been opened, then closed again. I approached slowly, legs stiff. The cold around it now felt like walking into a freezer. I looked around. No cameras working, no radio, no people, just the box. And then, something occurred to me. The cameras. I hadn't reviewed them since earlier, since the shift before. I bolted back to the office, tried the door, locked. I banged on it, no answer. Then I remembered, the break room monitor. There's a low-res feed loop in the break room, one of those old wall-mounted screens no one uses anymore, showing a few angles from the dock and employee hallway. I ran, turned the dial, found the dock feed, and froze. The box, an hour earlier, was shaking, not vibrating, shaking, hard, almost jumping. It rattled in place for nearly 3 minutes, then went still. I watched the timestamp, 3:27 to 3:30 a.m. No one nearby, just the box, moving like something inside was losing patience. I rewound again, this time watched the hallway feed. At 3:45, someone walked past the break room door, or something. It looked like me. Same height, same walk, same jacket, but I was in the break room, watching it happen, and the version of me on screen stopped, turned slowly toward the camera, then smiled. I stood there for a long time, staring at my own face frozen on the screen. That smile didn't belong to me. It was too slow, too deliberate. Lips parted just enough to show teeth, not in a friendly way, but like something trying to remember how a smile works. Then the screen blinked. Static washed over the image for a second, and when the feed returned, the hallway was empty. I rewound again. Same moment, 3:45 a.m. Same walk, same turn toward the camera. But this time, there was no smile. Just a blank expression. Eyes blacked out by pixelation, mouth closed. The footage didn't match what I had just seen. It was different, mutated. I tried to rewind a third time, but the screen locked. Frozen, blue overlay. Text appeared in the top corner. Audio feed available. Play? I hesitated, then hit yes. There was no footage, just sound. It started low, like breathing. Not mine, not anyone's I recognized. It was too wet, too close, like it had been recorded inside someone's throat. Then came a voice. My voice. Slowed down, distorted, speaking nonsense at first, then clearer. Don't open it. You already did. The static grew louder. Beneath it, I could hear movement. The sound of something heavy dragging across tile. Then a sudden knock. Loud, direct, like someone banging once against a hard surface. I jumped. The screen flickered and went black. I stepped back, heart pounding. Then, behind me, I heard the break room door creak. I turned. Empty. But on the table where I'd left my water bottle, something else had appeared. A small black audio recorder. Old, dusty, like it hadn't been touched in years. The red rec light was blinking. I walked over slowly, picked it up. The display read, Track 1, Daniel, 01409. I didn't press play. I couldn't. I pocketed it and left the break room. Everything was different now. The air felt thinner. The lights felt brighter but colder, like hospital fluorescence. The store felt deeper than it had any right to be, like the aisles were stretching behind me when I wasn't looking. I passed back through the stockroom, and the box had moved again. Now it was just outside the employee bathroom door, centered perfectly in front of it, like it had been waiting for me to leave the break room. The top flaps were slightly open, not enough to see in, just enough to know it wanted me to look, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I walked straight to the manager's office, and this time the door was unlocked. Inside it was dark, no monitor on, no sign of James, but his headset was still on the desk, still buzzing, still live. I picked it up, pressed the button. All I heard was breathing, not mine, not James's, just slow, thick, wet breathing. Then a voice, barely audible, whispered from the static, "You're not the first." I didn't sleep after that shift. I drove home as the sky turned that ugly shade of gray-blue, the kind of morning light that makes everything look artificial. I sat in my car outside the apartment for 30 minutes, trying to make sense of the voice on the headset, the recorder, the tape, but it never added up. Every time I replayed the night in my mind, the order of events shifted, like details were shuffling themselves, like time inside that store had bent, just enough to leave fingerprints on my memory. I didn't listen to the recorder, not yet. I kept it in the glove box. Just knowing it was there made my skin itch. I tried calling in that day, tried texting James. Nothing. No reply. No read receipt. The store line just rang out. At 10:44 p.m., I clocked back in like nothing had happened. Oscar was there. He didn't look at me the same way. He asked if I'd been sick, said I hadn't shown up the night before. I told him I had. I told him about the box. His smile faltered. What box? It was happening again. That erasure, that selective memory. Like the store was wiping its own surface clean, but only in certain places. The box was still there, back in the stockroom, not where I'd last seen it, but near the outbound belts this time, tucked half behind a rolling cage full of returns, like it had been trying to stay hidden. The top flaps were sealed again. New tape, but it wasn't standard issue. It was the same brown fibrous kind, old-looking, brittle. And there was a new label, same spot, top center, same handwriting. But this time the ink looked fresher, bolder, Daniel, all caps. But the corners of the label were peeling, and underneath, I saw something. I pressed my thumb to the corner, peeled gently. There was another label beneath it, then another, like layers, stacked over time, each one slightly different. I peeled 3, then stopped. Underneath, I saw a name I hadn't heard in over 10 years. Jason M., my older brother. He worked at this Walmart in 2009 for 3 months. Quit suddenly. No notice, just stopped showing up. I hadn't talked to him since. I checked the associate archive in the back office. His name wasn't there. not even in the old records. It was like he never worked here. But I remember it. I remember the blue vest, the way he used to complain about the overnight shifts, the way he started sounding tired all the time near the end. I went back to the box, sat down in front of it, and said his name out loud. Jason. Nothing. Then, just barely, I heard something shift inside. A small, slow scrape, like nails across cardboard from the inside, followed by a tap. Just one, like acknowledgement, like memory resurfacing. I ran my hand down the side of the box. There was something etched there, beneath the cardboard surface. Faint, like someone had carved it with a paperclip. 3 words. It remembers you. I didn't tell anyone what I saw under the label. Didn't mention my brother. Didn't mention the carving. Some things feel like confessions. And that night, the box felt like a confessional booth, but one that didn't forgive. I kept my distance the rest of the shift, kept working, kept pretending. But every time I walked by that section of the stockroom, I felt it. That quiet gravity, that pressure. Like the box wasn't just sitting there, like it was watching, waiting. Around 2:30 a.m. I noticed something else. The smell had changed. It was stronger now, less sweet, more chemical, like wet plastic and rust. It hit you in the back of the throat, burned just slightly behind the eyes. I traced the scent back to the box, got within 10 feet and stopped. I didn't want to be closer, not this time. But the smell wasn't the only thing that changed. The shape was different too, just barely. The sides bulged now, subtle, maybe an inch outward, like the contents inside had swollen, or shifted, or grown. The tape across the top looked stretched. I wasn't imagining it. The packing seams had fine lines along them like tiny cracks in the cardboard, like something had been pressing outward. I circled around it, slow, careful, and I swear the box exhaled. Not a sound, a feeling, a push of cold air against my legs, like walking past a freezer case that had just been opened. Then, movement, not the box. Inside it, a sudden drop in weight, like something had settled or slumped. I saw the cardboard depress slightly on one side, then spring back. Oscar passed me in that moment, pushing a U-boat of overstock. He didn't look at the box, didn't react, just kept moving. I called out, "Hey, man, you see this?" He looked at me like I'd asked him to solve an equation. "Huh? This box, right here. You really don't see it." He blinked. "What box?" And then walked away. I turned back. The flaps were opening again. No sound, just a slow pull upward, as if the box was stretching. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then something touched the inside of the flap. A smear. Dark. Wet. It pressed gently, like fingers. 5 of them. Then slid downward, leaving a streak of something thick and black behind. That was the first time I backed away. Not walked, not turned. Backed away. Eyes still locked on the mark, heart pounding in my ears. And then I heard it. Not from the box. From my handheld. It turned itself on. The screen flashed white, then black. Then a message appeared. "Do not let it out." I stayed late that night. Past shift end. Past daylight. I didn't clock out. Couldn't. I needed to be alone. Needed the others to leave. Because something had shifted inside me too. Some part of my brain that finally stopped asking why and started asking how long. How long had it been here? How long had it been happening? How many boxes? I waited in the break room until Oscar and Clara left through the front. James never showed. I walked the stockroom slow, listened, followed the smell, not the rot, but something underneath it, the metallic scent of air that hadn't been breathed right in a long time. And I found another one, not in plain sight, tucked behind a column of damaged freight cages near the compactors, hidden beneath a tarp, smaller, square. The tape was the same. The label was faded, almost unreadable. I pulled it off slowly. One name, Benedar. Didn't recognize it at first, so I checked the schedule system. Inactive associate, terminated, no call, no show. Last shift, December 8th, 2022. I checked the back office locker wall. There were 12 lockers with locks still on them, names scratched out. No one ever removed them, no one ever asked. I kept searching. I found a third box near the top of the safety ladder closet, balanced on the overhead shelf where no freight should ever be. Same tape, same handwriting. Miranda C. That one hit me harder. Miranda was a seasonal hire, young, nervous, started in November, gone before Christmas. HR said she quit. No call, no return. I remember asking if anyone had seen her jacket, a bright orange thing she used to hang on the break room hook. No one found it, but I remember, because I found it that night, folded inside the third box, neatly, perfectly, not a wrinkle on it, and under the jacket, something else, a name tag, mine, same font, same pinhole, same wear marks, but I hadn't lost mine, not yet. I stood there staring down into the cardboard for what felt like hours, and then I felt it again, that weight behind me, that presence, like the store itself was shifting, like I had been noticed. I turned fast, nothing there, but the boxes had changed. The labels were gone, cleaned, erased, just cardboard now, waiting to be renamed. Miranda. The name wouldn't leave my head. Once I saw it on that box, it was like something unlocked, like my mind had been holding onto a fogged image for months, waiting for the moment it was safe to remember. She worked grocery, stocked the back end of frozen, didn't talk much, always wore that same orange jacket, even indoors. Said she hated the cold, hated how the freezer air settled in her bones. I remember the last time I saw her. She was staring at the end cap by the deli cooler, just staring, pallet jack in one hand, frozen peas still wrapped in the other. I asked her if she needed help. She didn't respond, didn't even blink, just stood there, locked up, like someone had hit pause on her brain. Then she whispered something. I didn't catch it at the time. I thought she was just tired, maybe burned out. But now, in the quiet of this empty store, I heard it again, echoing in my memory. 4 words. It knows my name. That's what she said. I hadn't thought about it in months. Hadn't remembered it until I found her name etched into cardboard with brown tape stretching over the seams like dried skin. And now I couldn't stop hearing her voice. Soft, flat, final. It knows my name. I took the jacket out of the box. It was cold, heavier than it should have been. I held it in my arms for a minute before realizing something was in the pocket. A receipt, printed from one of the break room vending machines. The date, December 22nd. Time, 3:44 a.m. The same hour the lights went out for me. I flipped it over. There was writing on the back, scribbled in ink that had bled through. Don't leave anything behind. That's when I heard the noise again. From the first box, back near the compactors. I turned the corner slowly. It was moving, not the box, the flaps, opening slowly, not forced, not sudden, just unfolding, like a mouth parting mid-sentence. The air around it shimmered, like heat waves off pavement. I should have run, should have called someone, but I didn't. I stepped forward, looked inside. Darkness, but not empty, not anymore. There was a shape now, vague, pale, curved slightly. It moved when I leaned in, curling slightly away from the light. A shoulder, a back, hair, soaked through, and just visible on the edge of the cardboard lining, pressed in like a thumbprint in soft clay. Another name, Miranda again. Only this time it wasn't printed. It was burned in, as if whoever, whatever, was inside had claimed the space from the inside. I stumbled backward, heart racing, breathing sharp, and from somewhere far down the stockroom corridor, just beyond the flickering light near aisle R12, I heard a voice call out, a whisper, but unmistakable. Daniel, my name, spoken softly, like it had been said 1,000 times in the dark. The air changed. That's how I knew things had crossed a line. Not the smell this time, not the cold, the pressure, the way the air moved, or didn't. You can always feel the air in a stockroom. There's circulation, hum from the refrigeration units, the occasional gust from dock doors opening. But now it was stagnant, heavy. I walked past the apparel racks near the back corner of the store, and the air hit me like a wall, dense, still. It pressed in around my ears like I'd stepped into a vacuum chamber. The box was still in view from there, back near the safety cage. Open now, no effort to hide. Something was unfolding from it, not visibly, not physically, but I felt it, like space was bending around that box. The angles of the aisles looked wrong, slightly tilted, like the shelving had slumped inward, like the floor wasn't level anymore. I touched one of the end caps. It felt warm, just for a second, then cold again. I moved to hardware where the air got sweeter, not in a good way, not like fruit or flowers, more like artificial cinnamon, the kind you smell from potpourri that's been sitting too long. Chemical. Wrong. It coated my teeth. And then I saw the condensation. Tiny droplets on the metal U-boats, fogged glass on the freezer doors. But there was no humidity in the store, no reason for condensation. I wiped my hand across one of the carts. There was a smear, not water, something thicker. I held my fingers up to the light, dark red-brown, viscous. It wasn't fresh. Whatever it was, it had dried, then rehydrated. My hands started to tremble. And then, near the far end of the cleaning aisle, I saw the footprints, bare, human, leading from the far corner of the floor toward the box. They weren't bloody, they weren't wet, they were sunken, as if the weight of each step had pressed the floor inward by a fraction of an inch. A warping, a bruising. I followed them with my eyes and realized something worse. They weren't going to the box. They were coming from it, walking outward, silently, in a straight line, toward electronics. I followed. I couldn't stop myself. I turned each corner with my body tense, ready to see something impossible. But all I found were more signs. Scattered freight that hadn't been there minutes earlier. Pallet wrap torn and dangling from the ceiling, as if someone had pulled it upward. The air grew colder the deeper I went, and in that silence, I heard my own name again, not spoken, exhaled. From behind me, I turned. No one. But the air, it was wrong. I could feel it moving now, around me, circling me, like the store itself was breathing me in. I backed up, eyes wide, and that's when I saw it. In the center of the seasonal aisle, surrounded by spilled freight and overturned displays. A second box, identical, but this one was upside down, and written on the bottom in marker, inverted, were 3 words. You opened first. I didn't blink. Couldn't. The second box just sat there, flipped over, like someone had dropped it mid-ritual. The words written on the bottom, you opened first, weren't smeared or rushed. They were precise, like a label. I walked slowly toward it. The light above that section of seasonal flickered once, then went still. No buzzing, just cold, the kind that seeps into your joints, the kind you feel in your gums. I crouched next to the box, reached for it, and stopped. It was breathing, not visibly, not rhythmically, but I could feel it, heat radiating, then pulling away. The same way a dog pants when it's hiding under a bed, afraid. That's when I realized this wasn't cardboard anymore. The surface looked like cardboard, corrugated, brown, but the texture was wrong. It was too smooth in places, too soft. When I ran my fingers lightly across it, I felt give and a pulse. I jerked my hand back, watched the box shift slightly in place, not slide, shift, like something under the surface had twitched, like muscle. I stood fast, and then I noticed the seam along the side wasn't a taped edge anymore. It was a mouth, split, subtle, slightly parted, not with teeth, with layers, folds, wetness inside, and just barely at the corner of the split a sound, a whimper, human, or close enough. I backed away, faster now, turned and ran toward the main floor, toward people, but there were none. Every aisle I passed was empty, displays untouched, shelves stocked, but the silence was different now, thicker, not absence of sound, suppression of it. The store was choking itself to hold something in. I reached the front, saw the registers, all screens dark, self-checkout frozen, the doors locked, and on the floor where the welcome mat should have been, another shape, flattened, torn, a vest, blue, familiar, my vest, not missing, not a spare, mine, same stains near the hem, same crooked name tag. I picked it up, and underneath it, something moved. The floor buckled slightly. I stepped back, and the tile breathed. No illusion, no misstep. It rose once, shallow and slow, then settled. A ripple ran down the center of the floor. I turned, and behind me, halfway down the center aisle, the box was crawling, slow, not like an animal, like something inside was pulling with elbows, stretching the box shape outward as it moved. The corners sagged, one flap folded inside out, the bottom now slightly translucent, damp, not a box anymore, a carapace, a discarded skin. It left a smear behind it, dark, sticky. I couldn't move. I just watched as it slid closer, 6 feet away, then 4. Then it stopped, and from inside something reached out, not all the way, just enough for me to see the suggestion of fingers, too many joints, too long, and curled around something that didn't belong. My employee ID badge, the one I hadn't worn in days. I didn't scream. I couldn't. It wasn't fear in the way people think of it. It was more like recognition. That hollow falling feeling you get when you see yourself in a photo you don't remember taking. That hand, too long, too wrong, still held my badge. I stepped back slowly, one foot, then another. But as I moved, I heard it, from far down aisle R, a voice. Mine, not recorded, not distorted, spoken, alive. It was laughing, softly at first, almost conversational, then rising, louder, as if amused by something only it could understand. I turned toward the sound. Didn't want to, but I had to. At the far end of the aisle, where the store cameras never point, I saw something step out from behind a shelf. It was wearing my uniform, not just similar, mine. Same faded shirt, same pants with the tear near the ankle, same shoes, but not me. Its posture was off, too tall, too fluid, like someone had described how I moved from memory and got it almost right. It tilted its head, looking at me, smiled, then spoke. "You're late," my own voice, perfectly matched, but the intonation was wrong, too cheerful, too eager. It took a step forward. I turned and ran. I didn't plan where, just moved. My feet took me toward the back again, toward the only place left that still made any kind of sense. The box, the original one, the one with the first label. It was still there, but changed now, taller, open. Its sides had split wider, flared like petals. Inside there was light, but not warm. It was sterile, pale, like light from a hospital hallway, leaking upward from a depth that shouldn't exist inside cardboard. I stood at the edge, felt the heat, heard voices, not one, dozens, all speaking softly, overlapping. Some said my name, some repeated the same word over and over. Stay, 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 stay. One voice rose above the rest, hers, Miranda. She sounded calm, resigned. It remembers everything. Then the thing that looked like me screamed, not words, just a sharp animal scream from the center of its chest. I turned. It was closer now, too close. Its face was shifting, trying to hold the shape of mine but failing. Eyes too dark, skin too thin. I took a step toward the box. It reached toward me, but not to grab, to offer, held out my badge, then dropped it. I caught a glimpse of what was etched into the plastic, a message where my name used to be. Just 2 words, get in. I didn't decide to step in. There wasn't a moment of courage, no choice. It was inevitability. I crossed the threshold of the box, and the cardboard gave like flesh, warm, damp. The flaps folded gently inward behind me, not sealing me in, just accepting. And then I fell, not far, just a step down. But the world shifted, gravity tilted, sound died. I was no longer in a box. I was inside a room, or what pretended to be one. The walls were lined with material that pulsed, not fabric, not wood, something in between, breathing in and out, expanding slightly with each inhale. The light came from nowhere, diffused, cold. The floor was soft, malleable, and in the center of the room, a shape, not human, not fully. It sat hunched, facing away, shoulders too sharp, spine arched in a way that suggested pain or memory. Its head moved as I entered, not a turn, a twitch, recognition. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. Then it did turn, and I saw what it had made of my face. It had my eyes, but stretched, my mouth, but wrong. It had been practicing, and beneath the skin, it wore something like my old uniform, but it wasn't cloth. It was grown, stitched into its body. It opened its mouth, and the sound that came out was mine, but young, teenage. It repeated something I hadn't said in years. Don't leave me. I stumbled backward, hit the pulsing wall, and realized I wasn't alone. There were other shapes, pressed into the material. Dozens, some half-formed, some still shifting, all wearing fragments of name tags. I saw Miranda's orange jacket fused into the tissue of one wall, saw the black shoes Jason used to wear for work crushed into the floor like fossils, and near my feet, a photo, old, crumpled, me and my brother, smiling in front of this very Walmart. The sign behind us still clean, still new, but I didn't remember this photo being taken. I picked it up, and the wall in front of me opened. Not a door, a wound. The room peeled, and behind it was something vast, Not darkness, a mirror, no frame, no glass, just a surface that reflected nothing but possibility. I looked into it and saw 100 versions of myself, some screaming, some silent, some kneeling in aisles I'd never stocked, in stores I'd never worked, all wearing the same name tag, all inside their own box. And behind me, I heard it enter, the thing from the aisle, the one that looked like me, but it didn't attack. It stood beside me and whispered in my ear, "You remember now." I don't remember how I got out. One moment I was staring into that mirror, that impossible surface reflecting lives I'd never lived, and the next I was standing in the middle of the store again, but it wasn't the same. Everything was too still. The lights overhead buzzed without flickering, perfectly even, artificial. The shelves were full, but every product label was blank. The walls seemed to breathe. I moved slowly, carefully, toward the front. The box was gone. The second one too. But the smear they left, the long, oily trail across tile, still shone under the lights. I walked to the exit doors. They didn't open, not automatically, not with force. I slammed the push bar, nothing. Tried the side entrance by the tire center, sealed. The emergency door near electronics, no alarm, no movement, only smooth, unbroken wall. I checked my phone, no signal. The time read 3:17 a.m., frozen. The screen wouldn't refresh. The same second repeating over and over like it was caught in a loop. I walked the perimeter, tried every exit. Some weren't even there anymore. Whole hallways gone, rooms shortened. The manager's office was just a door now, leading to a blank wall. The break room had no chairs, no tables, just lockers, empty, doorless, humming faintly like they were breathing too. When I looked back, I was standing in housewares. Again, though I'd just come from lawn and garden. I moved to the rear of the store, taking a different route, and yet, housewares, again. Same set of ceramic mugs, same mismatched towels. It was a loop, not digital, not mechanical, spatial. The store was folding in on itself, rewriting its own layout as I walked. I stopped in the center aisle, sat on the tile, closed my eyes, tried to focus on my breathing. Then I heard it, the intercom. My voice, calm, tired. "Attention Walmart associates." Static. Then, "Daniel, return to freight." I opened my eyes. Everything was darker, no light overhead, but I could still see. Somehow, I stood, walked toward the back, felt the floor stretch beneath my steps. Too many tiles, not enough. And then I saw the dock door, open, slightly. Beyond it, nothing. No parking lot, no outside, just black, liquid black, like a curtain rippling gently. I reached for it, touched it, felt warm. Then the intercom buzzed again, final this time. 3 words, my voice, but not me. "You belong here." I think I'm still working. I clock in, I stock, I break down pallets. The others don't see me. They talk past me, walk through the aisles like I'm part of the shelving. I don't blame them. I'm not always in the same place. Sometimes I'm in grocery, sometimes near the baler, sometimes I'm between aisles that shouldn't connect. But the store keeps going. The lights flicker at exactly the same intervals every night. The announcements repeat like breathing. Soft, predictable. Clean up on aisle 7. Associates to the front. A heartbeat. A loop. The box is back. Of course it is. It's always back. Smaller now. Clean edges. No label. I don't need one anymore. I know it's mine. Sometimes I find others, tucked behind damaged freight, pressed into the freezer walls, folded flat between shelves like sleeping things. They breathe too, but no one notices. No one ever did. I checked the employee records again. Jason isn't there. Miranda's file is blank. Mine's locked. Access denied. I don't try anymore. Sometimes during night audit, I hear my own name on the intercom. Sometimes in my own voice. Sometimes not. And I answer. Because I'm still here. I always will be. The stockroom stretches a little longer each shift. The aisles bend a little sharper. The lights take longer to turn on. And the air, it watches, listens, learns. I tried to leave once, made it all the way to the front door, pushed hard enough to split skin, and on the floor in front of me was another box. New tape, new ink, 5 letters. Not just my name this time, but something else. One final word, stay, and I knew. The box wasn't new. It hadn't arrived this week, or last week, or even last year. It had always been here, from the beginning, just waiting for me to notice.